Taking a crap in your pants. We've all done it. I mean, I've definitely done it. Even Indiana Jones has done it. And the story behind that, believe it or not, is only one of the many crazy things that happened on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Welcome to the secret history of movies. Today we tackle Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones movie. And I researched for hours finding out about all the craziest things that happened on set. But be on your toes, because one of the stories I'm about to tell you, I completely made up. So let's see if you can figure out which. I'll give you a hint. Our first story, the story about Indiana Jones pooping his pants, believe it or not, is actually real. Not only is it real, but it's actually the reason for one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. Okay everyone, let's set up for the next shot. Wait! Guys! I'm gonna need a second. I just took a crap the size of a boulder in my pants. A boulder, you say? Just kidding. The story actually goes that when they were shooting the Cairo scenes, they were filming in North Africa, aka Tunisia. And because most of the cast and crew were not used to the local cuisine, they ended up getting dysentery from food poisoning. Some of the crew got it so bad that they literally got diarrhea. One of those people was Harrison Ford. Now, it just so happened that when everyone was getting dysentery, they were supposed to film the famous scene with the Cairo swordsman. Now, if you remember, this scene is one of the funniest parts of Raiders of the Lost Ark because, we see this big, brute swordsman. He's flipping the sword around. He's doing all this impressive stunts. And Indiana Jones just kind of looks at him, shrugs, and then shoots him and gets on with his day. But originally in the script, Indy was actually supposed to fight this swordsman with his whip. They had choreographed for weeks this whole intense fight scene. But when Harrison Ford came out of his trailer to film it, of course, he was not feeling too well. So he went up to director Steven Spielberg and said,
"Oh, hey Steven, I'm not feeling too well. Do you mind if I just shoot this guy instead?" "Sure, why not?"
"Steven, why don't we just shoot this sumbitch?"
And the rest is history. Now, funny enough, one of the only people to not get dysentery on set was actually director Steven Spielberg, because he had thought ahead and packed hundreds and hundreds of cans of SpaghettiOs and only ate that while in Tunisia. Which reminds me, it's time to talk about the sponsor of today's video, SpaghettiOs. Just kidding. That'd be kind of crazy though, wouldn't it? Now, maybe we would have actually got that original swordsman fight scene if we had a different Indiana Jones entirely, which reminds me of the story of the Indiana Jones that almost was, Tom Selleck. You may know that Tom Selleck was originally supposed to play Indiana Jones, but he couldn't because he had to go do Magnum P.I. instead. Just, a little TV show. And before they cast the legend that is Harrison Ford, they looked at a bunch of other actors. Actually, it's astonishing who almost played Indiana Jones. So let's talk about the almost Indiana Joneses. On this list are the likes of Bill Murray, Nick Nolte, Jack Nicholson, Indiana Jones, more like Indiana Joker, am I right? Steve Martin was also considered at one point, so was Chevy Chase and Jeff Bridges. After looking at this list, I'm really glad we ended up with Harrison Ford. Enough about Indy, let's talk about the villain of Raiders of the Lost Ark, the suave French archaeologist René Belloc, played by Paul Freeman. And apparently, Mr. Freeman likes to eat flies. This story stems from the scene where Indiana Jones is threatening to blow up the Ark of the Covenant with a bazooka, and the villain René Belloc is trying to talk him down. And in one shot where we have a close-up of Belloc, you see a fly kind of fly into his mouth and then completely disappear. Now, Paul Freeman, the actor, claims that the fly just kind of flew off screen and we just didn't see it because it's super fast, I guess. But Spielberg, the director, says that he has analyzed every frame and he claims that Paul Freeman did eat the fly. I mean, this story became such a big thing in 1981 that the New Yorker even mentions it in its review for Raiders of the Lost Ark, claiming that the fly is an actor with remarkable devotion to duty. honestly, I think it was just Paul Freeman preparing for his next role as Kermit the Frog, and he just went a little too method. Another cool thing about this scene is how it connects to Star Wars and George Lucas, but specifically his watch. Because this Indiana Jones bazooka scene was filmed in a canyon, the same canyon they also used for some scenes of Tatooine in the original Star Wars. And the only reason they returned is because George Lucas begged them to. Apparently back in the 1970s when George was filming the Tatooine scenes, he lost his watch in this canyon. So he convinced Steven to return to the same spot and film some scenes for Raiders of the Lost Ark, so George would have the chance to find his long lost watch. And he was ready. He brought a team of 10 people with their own metal detectors to comb this desert canyon for his long lost watch. And the crazy part? Not only did they find his watch, but they also found 10 other watches for each of the metal detectors to take home. Now, I want to switch gears to stunts. Hooah! Raiders of the Lost Ark is an action-adventure movie, and because of that, it has a bunch of great stunts that would have never graced our screens were it not for the amazing stunt doubles and stunt actors. But sometimes their job is not as glamorous as jumping off trucks or walking away from explosions. Sometimes keeping the main actor safe is as simple as doing a close-up of their leg. Now, usually with stunt doubles, it's someone who looks a lot like the main cast, so you can't tell when you're actually watching the movie. But during the filming of the Well of Souls scene, the temple where they find the Ark of the Covenant, one of the shots of Marion is actually a man. This all happened because if you remember that scene, there is a bunch of snakes slithering through the temple. Actually, there was about 7,000 or 8,000 live snakes on that set. And Karen Allen, the actress that plays Marion Ravenwood, was very afraid of them, especially because she's walking around barefoot in that scene. But to Karen Allen's credit, she actually toughed it out. For a lot of the scenes, she's actually there with the live snakes. But of course, sometimes it was not safe for her to actually film the scene. So at that point, they would have a double for Karen Allen. But these were a lot of live snakes biting and hissing, so sometimes it was even too dangerous for Karen's stunt double. And so when it was too dangerous for Karen Allen and too dangerous for a stunt double, they needed someone else to film the scene. Their solution was to have the actual animal handler, the person in charge of all these snakes, shave his leg and just shoot a close-up of just his leg. So next time you're watching Raiders of the Lost Ark and you get to the Well of Souls scene and you see a close-up of Marion's leg, know that that's not Karen Allen or even her stunt double, but actually the animal handler, Steve Edge. Now, you may be wondering, if Karen Allen and Harrison Ford do a lot of their own stunts, why even bother hiring stunt doubles? It's mainly because there are some stunts that are so dangerous, Harrison Ford or Karen Allen could get really hurt. And if they do, it would halt production for months. And that very thing almost happened on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you remember towards the end of the movie, Indiana Jones has a big fight scene against a giant mechanic dude, and they fight around a plane that's doing donuts. Now there's one shot where Indy almost gets crushed by the wheels of the plane, but he quickly somersaults out of the way. Now Harrison Ford actually did this stunt himself in real life. And one take, it almost ended in disaster. Because one time while he was trying to roll out of the way of the wheel, he slipped in the sand, and the wheel actually caught on his toe and slowly started rolling up his leg. Luckily, they hit the brakes before the tire crushed his kneecap. And even more lucky, they were filming this in North Africa, where the sun was beating down so hard that it actually softened the tires. And so Harrison got really lucky and only got minor injuries. And with that, we've covered the secret history of the first and best Indiana Jones film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Also, feel free to comment down below any movie you would love for me to cover next.
You're still here? Oh, that's right. I forgot to tell you which of these stories I completely made up. It was the one about the watches. You're telling me not only did they find the exact watch George Lucas lost in a desert 5 years ago, but they also found 10 other watches for these people? Come on.